A woman's decision to prioritize her own family over her financially struggling brother has ignited debate on Reddit, where thousands of users weighed in on whether she was in the wrong for refusing to give her brother rent money. The post, the Redditor says, her mom shamed me for prioritizing my own family. The poster, a 28-year-old mother of two, explained that she and her 30-year-old husband are working hard to stay afloat financially while saving for the future and paying off debt. We're doing our best to stay on top of things financially, but it's hard, she wrote. We both work full time and we're saving for the future, paying off debt, and just trying to make sure our kids have everything they need. The last few years has been a struggle, but we're getting there. Let's pause for a minute. So we have a 28-year-old mother with kids. So she has multiple children, and she also has a 30-year-old husband. From the sounds of it, it seems to me that she's very responsible. She's aware of the family finances. She's aware that her duty is to her family first, most off her kids first and her husband, not her brother. That balance was disrupted when her brother, who is in his mid 20s, called asking for $4,500 to cover overdue rent. Don't worry, we're going to get back to that. He's been struggling financially for a while now because of poor spending habits, and now he's in danger of being evicted, she explained. He said his life would fall apart if I didn't help him. I told him I couldn't. We're not in a position to throw around that kind of money, especially since I have my own family to take care of. Plus, he's been asking for help like this for years, and I just don't think it's right to keep bailing him out. Her decision did not sit well with her mother, who called shortly after to criticize her refusal to help. I wonder if this is like cultural, okay? Where like in some families, and when I'm thinking cultural, I'm not thinking United States, I'm thinking more of overseas, where in some countries, I'm just wondering, okay, I'm not culturally learned in that respects, okay? But is there like a sense of duty that the daughter is supposed to help the so-called, man of the house? In this case, it'd be her brother. Now, her brother is in his 20s and he wants $4,500. Guys, that's an astronomical amount of money to want. In my world as a school teacher, you come to me, you say, I want $4,500. $4,500, that's a few months of earnings for me, take home. Okay, take home pay. That can be a few months for me to give up to give you $4,500. The other thing too is he's been struggling financially. So guess what? It sounds as though she has helped him in the past. When you simply give a beggar handouts, and we all know this from the begging TikToks I've been doing, right? Don't worry, I'll attach them at the end if you missed it. Okay. I'm been very trending lately on the begging TikToks, okay, because I find them fascinating, to be totally honest. But you keep giving a beggar handouts, and after a while they go, gee, we don't have to fish for ourselves. I'll just go to the human and let the human feed me. Absolutely no way does your sibling, your 20-year-old, and sounds like bad financially learned person here, no way does he come over your husband and your kids. Absolutely no way. And she says he's been asking for help like this for years. So this means all the help the family's been giving him is doing nothing to serve him. As Dave Ramsey would say, I love you enough that I'm not going to help you stay on this financial treadmill. He may not use those words, but you get my point. In other words, the family has actually done the brother a disservice. Okay, this Redditor, the writer, she and her possibly the other members of her family, they've done the brother a disservice by consistently helping him because as a mid 20-year-old, he should be financially sufficient. And yes, sometimes that means you have to work overtime. Sometimes it means you have to work a job and a half, whatever. But going to his sister, and he's probably jealous of his sister too, because he sees his sister and they're financially solid. They're aware of their budget. He sees the sister with a husband and probably thinks, well, there are two of you in the family. Why can't you lend me money? $4,500 is not chump change. The writer said she was told by her mother she was being selfish and that family comes first. That's interesting. Well, then what's your husband and what are your kids? She told me I could not She told me I could always rebuild my savings later and that I should help my brother because he's in a crisis, the woman wrote. She even said, "Don't you want to show your kids what family is supposed to be? That's the kind of example you should be setting." She accused me of choosing my own family over him and said I needed to grow up and be there for your brother when he needs you. Oh, don't, gaslighting. Gaslighting. Don't let someone gaslight you into thinking that you are in the wrong and that you are the bad person because you're not going to put your sibling over your children. We're not even talking your spouse, although I believe that once you are married, it is you and your spouse. You guys are the foundation. Don't let anyone gaslight you and say that because you won't sacrifice for another family member who is clearly irresponsible, clearly, and that you won't sacrifice for him, that makes you're a bad daughter, you're a bad sister, you're a bad wife. And isn't it funny that the mother says, well, family comes first. Oh, mother, your children grow up. They create their own families. And after a while, you are not first in their life. Your house may not be the place they want to go to for every holiday. At some point, they may want to stay in their own house with their own family. The mother's kind of a little bit hypocritical here. Okay. The mother wants the daughter to believe that the mother's family comes first without recognizing that the daughter now has her own family and the daughter wants to instill the same values supposedly that the mother is saying about family comes first. Taking care of your deadbeat brother, not necessary, and that's not part of the game plan. The situation highlights a common family dynamic that one is often fueled by expectations, guilt, and a sense of obligation, according to Rachel, a mental health counselor. Let me tell you just something. Perhaps it's just my age at this point. In my 50s, you're going to have a hard time making me feel guilty that I'm not going to support someone who's a deadbeat. That's the nice thing about being 50 and a Gen Xer on top of it. Okay. It's just, you don't care. It's like, hey, if you want to be fiscally irresponsible and you want to live your life like that, you cannot go to your siblings and say, hey, give me $4,500. That's a lot of money. So no, see, I'm the type, maybe it's my, lack of cultural upbringing. You're not going to get me to feel guilty about that. I will sleep very nicely in my luxury sheets and on my pillow top mattress. Okay. So that's why I'm kind of wondering, is this perhaps a, religion/cultural thing that's outside the United States? But I'm going to tell anybody, I don't care what culture you are, your family does come first. And if you're still, man or woman, okay, hanging on the mommy and daddy's purse strings because you can't get together and yet you're solidly in your mid-20s. And I understand that there is still some, parental support to some extent that happens with kids because, inflation and living costs are high. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who are fiscally irresponsible, like the dude in this article here, okay? Going to a family member saying, hey, bail me out again. You see, that's what I'm talking about. I see a family caught in a familiar dance, says this licensed health counselor, of expectations and guilt and the longing to be seen as good, as loving, and worthy. This young woman is at a crossroads between the old patterns of her family and the new foundation she's building with her husband and children. All right, well, it's really simple. Which comes first? The new foundation with your husband and children comes first. If your family chooses to not participate in your life because you do not live your life financially and everything else with the way they expect, then bye-bye. Again, I'm going with the assumption, okay, as in this story, that you have someone who is very irresponsible and they want someone the mother wants the daughter to bail out her irresponsible son/brother. No. See, don't let people gaslight you, especially when it comes to your money, your finances, when it comes to the relationship you have with your spouse. Okay. And the relationship with your children. Don't let anybody gaslight you and tell, oh, you're doing it all wrong because you're not willing to sacrifice. Any money that goes out the door, if you're in a relationship, okay, preferably married, but even if you're shacking up together like I've done, okay, but in other words, your finances somehow or another tied, whether it's in marriage or not, okay, you need to both be in agreement. Could you imagine her sending out $4,500? What that could do to the relationship between the husband and the wife? Basically, you're going to sacrifice your relationship to make your mother and your brother happy. Forget it. Don't do it. Scrolling. Around half of renter households in the U.S. spend over 30% of their income on rent, Well, 12.1 million households are severely cost burdened. Yeah, everybody is cost burdened. And clearly, the Redditor, the author, recognized that and she's trying to fix it. She has a focus. True family is not built on obligation. According to the poster, her mother is now refusing to speak to her and has told other relatives that she is heartless and unsupportive. Oh, what a wicked witch that woman is. Then the question becomes, how come the mother doesn't do it? Mom, you're so big into this. Why don't you go ahead and do it? Well, I can't do it anymore. I'm getting near retirement. Oh, really? Okay. Then don't be telling me what to do because guess what? I want to retire too. I ad libbed all that for anybody who's listening to it. Okay. So the mother's basically giving her a big guilt trip. Gaslighting. Don't let anybody ever gaslight you about your money. Don't ever let that happen. And guys, if you ever go on a date we're taking a little side step here, and a woman orders, five of the most expensive things on the menu, and or wants you to pay for all of her children she has at home, and she did not make those arrangements with you in advance, you need to walk out, pay your bill, and walk out. I just had to say that. Now, my family is calling me. They're telling me she's calling around saying, my husband is fully on my side, but I feel like I'm being torn apart by the guilt from my mom and brother. Lady, Redditor, you need to get a backbone. You know, I understand that some people are easily filled with guilt more than others. Perhaps it's because I had somewhat of a crappy childhood, not completely enough that you're going to have a hard time guilting me into much. But I understand that there are those people that are very sensitive, and we respect that. And just one little twang of you're wrong, it's your responsibility, and they feel like they're just totally guilty. You don't have to feel guilty about it at all. No. And if the shoe were reversed, do you think the brother would do the same? No. The psychologist explained that family members can use shame as a means of control, particularly when longstanding financial support is suddenly withheld. Let me tell you something. That's why sometimes you have to move away from your family. Moving away from family can be one of the most uplifting, life changing things to ever happen to you. And if you're, like I said, if you're married with a relationship, it can greatly improve it. If somebody is using manipulation control to get you to try to get you guilty, to do what they want, guess what? They don't really love you. They look at you as an obligation and expectation. So don't let that happen. Yeah. Long-standing financial support. How long does this loser of a brother want the family to take care of him? Apparently, at the sacrifice of her husband and the two children. I think she said she had two children. Her brother in distress reaches out for help. Her mother, fearing for one child, turns to another, using shame as a tool to pull her back into the role she once played. You gotta love that drama. And she, feeling the weight of it all, wonders if she is wrong for choosing herself, her husband, or children. Oh, good Lord, lady, you should not be married if you don't know the answer to that. Do not get married if you do not know whether your children and or husband are more important than your parents. Do not get married. Love my parents greatly. If I'm in a relationship, they're going to override what my parents think. As a matter of fact, what my parents think, well, it matters. It is no longer the final determination, and nor should it be. Okay. Yes. The mother, fearing for one child, turns on another. Well, screw the mother. Continuing on. The therapist offered words of reassurance. What I want this woman to know is this: you are not wrong for growing. You are not wrong for shifting the pattern. She probably is a PhD to come up with that sentence. What I want this woman to know is you are not wrong for growing. You are not wrong for shifting the pattern. I'm telling you, that's probably a $200 PhD degree right there to come up with that. Marmer, I'm being somewhat sarcastic because sometimes it's just so obvious. Can they not come up with a quote from a psychologist, a counselor, that is something we have never heard before? The counselor emphasizes that true family relationships should not be built on obligation or depletion. Again, another 200K college education thought. Yeah, we already know that. I can tell you that. Okay. And I don't have no psychology degree. I think some people are just more tenderhearted, they're just that they want to make everybody happy. You got to quit wanting to make everybody happy. That's what I would tell this lovely Redditor. Stop trying to make everybody happy and you will live a much longer and better life. Just when you're not trying to make mom and dad and everybody else happy. If the only person you're making happy are people who have no obligation to you whatsoever, okay? Your mother, does she pay any of the bills? Your brother, he clearly doesn't pay the bills. In other words, how does your daily life interact with them? It doesn't. And if the only interaction is financial and obligatory, I think that's what it's called, obligatory, okay? That's not real good. So yeah, it's not a real relationship if it's, like I said, it's based on money and guilt. Families, when they are at their best, are places of nourishment and support. Well, crap, I wish someone told my family that when I was growing up. Okay. But families also have old ways that demand sacrifice, ways that say love means giving until you are empty. She said, but that is not love. Love is not about depletion. Love is about connection, choice, and honesty. Yeah, it says here, let me just go back to this sentence here. Families also have old ways that demand sacrifice, that say give until you're empty. Well, I would like to agree with the counselor. No, we don't give until we're empty. As a matter of fact, we should give only when we are pretty full. That way we don't ever empty ourselves. I give to some, I have about 3, 4 YouTube channels that I am a member of. It's like $5 a month. It's not a lot, but it does add up, like $60, to each channel at the end of the year. I think I have like 3, 4 channels I do that with. That's my tithing, and that's my giving, because I really like the content that they do and stuff. But am I going to do it until I'm empty? No, that's just silly. Love is about connection, choice, and honesty. Oh my God, I feel like I've just walked into a self-help book here. Moving on. As for the next steps, the counselor suggested that the poster stand firm in her decision while still offering emotional support in a way that doesn't compromise her family's financial security. She is not responsible. I'm moving on myself, because I understand some of you are listening to this. Okay. On my side note, her brother and her mother's financial security, that's not her concern. She has a family. Her children's financial security above all else is her concern. She can stand firmly in her truth. She can say, I love you and I cannot do this. She can acknowledge her mother's fear, her brother's pain, but still hold her own boundary, because true family is not built on obligation. Yeah. Okay. Redditors rallied behind the woman's decision. Redditor users overwhelmingly side with the original poster, encouraging her to prioritize her immediate family's well-being. One Redditor wrote, you're taking care of your own family, which is your priority. You've helped your brother before, and it's unreasonable for him to keep asking for large sums of money when he's not making efforts to change his financial habits. Your mom's guilt trip is unfair, and you should not feel pressured into jeopardizing your family's well-being. It's important to set boundaries, and you made the right call by saying no. See, again, this Redditor is only like in her 20s. I would have no problem saying no. I can't afford it. Again, if somebody, if one of my siblings asked me for money and they said, give me, can you not give me, but could you lend me $4,500? I don't have $4,500. God, I wish I did. I'll give you 1,000. Okay. And as you know, I'm at the age where I don't ask for money back. Okay. What I give out, it's gone for family. Okay. I would say here's $1,000, and that's what I could give. And then they could just have it. Oh, by the way, this is my new coffee maker. Boy, I hope, is there nothing that you can look up on the freaking website that doesn't show up somewhere on another page? Yeah, that's my new coffee maker right there. It's the Breville. You can get Dillard for $350 or Williams Sonoma for $400. I'm getting at Williams Sonoma this afternoon, and I asked them to price match at Dillard's at $350, so they did. So that's my new coffee maker. Yay. Grinds, 6 different levels. You got to love this channel, you guys. You got to love it. Work with me. Okay, continuing on. I love you guys. Another Redditor wrote, props to you for not enabling your brother. And someone else called out the mother for enabling her son's behavior at the expense of her daughter's financial stability. But here's the cool part. It doesn't have to be at the expense of the daughter's financial stability, so long as the daughter can get a backbone. Okay. Say the word with me, backbone. Okay. No gaslighting, get a backbone. All right. Another Redditor wrote, your husband and your kids are your family. Your brother needs to get his act together, and your mother needs to back off and stop treating your brother like he's God's gift to man. Let him fail and figure himself out. Yes, absolutely. That is correct. And like I said, there might be some jealousy because he sees his sister is, doing well. Like I said, his sister has a family. The brother can't have a family because he can't figure himself out. Someone else wrote on Reddit, your brother is an adult who isn't being financially responsible. Your mom is right. Family does come first. You have children and they come first. I rest my case. Exactly. Isn't it the mother who said family comes first? Don't you want them? And didn't the mother say, don't you want your children to see how family is first? And the daughter's going, yes. So my children are first. Do not live for your siblings. Do not live for your parents. When you have a spouse, and especially when you have children, they are your new family. And isn't that the way it's supposed to be? I believe so. And I also believe it's time to go to the gym. See you later.